Welcome to Flavors Indian Cuisine, best Indian cuisine in the state of Arkansas. Flavors Indian Cuisine is a unique Indian restaurant which always conducts innovative memorable events. Conducted 3-day anniversary celebrations and distributed dessert boxes with 15% off coupon on both lunch and dinner for all the customers. Serving free lunch buffet on customer's birthday. One and only Indian restaurant in USA serving beer with best food pairing combination and wine with best food pairing combination. Served free lunch buffet and free entree food during dinner to all the veterans on Veterans Day. On behalf of Flavors Management and staff, thank you so much for choosing our restaurant to celebrate Valentine's Day with your beloved one. To make your visit a flavorful and memorable event, we have a delicious buffet that will appease all your senses. Flavors Management created special short feature film just for those in love and those who wish to fall in love. Let us celebrate love by reminding ourselves some of famous historical love stories that have left their mark on history. Flavors Management has put in a great deal of effort to create this feature film. Hope you guys enjoy it as much we did in creating it. Happy Valentine's Day. The content used in this short film is collected from internet. Flavors Management is not responsible for the correctness of content.
Very famous historical love story of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal created one of world's 7 wonders.
In 1612, a teenage girl, Arjamand Banu, married 15-year-old Shah Jahan, ruler of the Mughal Empire. Shah Jahan renamed her as Mumtaz Mahal. Though Shah Jahan had other wives also, Mumtaz Mahal was his favorite and accompanied him everywhere, even on military campaigns. She bore Shah Jahan 14 children and became his favorite wife. In the year 1631, when Mumtaz Mahal was giving birth to their 14th child, she died due to some complications. Shah Jahan was devastated by his wife's death and plunged into deep grief that affected him both emotionally and physically. While Mumtaz was on her deathbed, Shah Jahan promised her that he would never remarry and will build the richest mausoleum over her grave. After Mumtaz died, the grieving emperor resolved to create a fitting monument. It took 20,000 workers and 1,000 elephants nearly 20 years to complete this monument, the Taj Mahal. Shah Jahan was never able to complete a black marble mausoleum he planned for himself. Deposed by his son, Shah Jahan was imprisoned in the Red Fort of Agra, and spent lonely hours staring across the Yamuna River at the monument to his beloved queen. He was eventually buried beside her in the Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, the magnificent monument that stands at the heart of India, has a story that has been melting the hearts of millions of listeners since the time Taj has been visible.
Another famous historical love story between dancing girl Anarkali and Salim, who is son of Emperor Akbar. The love story of Salim and Anarkali is a story that every lover knows. The son of the great Mughal Emperor Akbar, Salim, fell in love with an ordinary but beautiful courtesan Anarkali. Anarkali was a legendary slave girl. He was mesmerized by her beauty and fell in love as soon as he saw her. But the emperor could not digest the fact that his son was in love with an ordinary courtesan. He started pressurizing Anarkali and devised all sorts of tactics make her fall in the eyes of the young, love-smitten prince. When Salim came to know of this, he declared a war against his own father. But the mighty emperor's gigantic army is too much for the young prince to handle. He gets defeated and is sentenced to death. This is when Anarkali intervenes and renounces her love to save her beloved from the jaws of death. She is entombed alive in a brick wall right in front of her lover's eyes.
The love story of Layla and Majnun is a tale of the man whose yearning for his lady love cost his sanity. A tale of a woman whose longing for her lover was the cause of her death. A tale of 2 lovers who could never live without each other. The love story of Layla and Majnun is a very famous one and is no less than a legend. Even today, people know them as Layla Majnun. The and in between is missing. They were two in flesh, but one in spirit. It is based on the real story of a young man called Qays ibn al-Malawa from the northern Arabian Peninsula, in the Umayyad era during the 7th century. This type of love is known as virgin love, because the lovers never married or made love. Layla was a beautiful girl born in a rich family. Being no less than a princess, she was expected to marry a wealthy boy and live in grandeur and splendor. But Layla fell in love with Qays, and he too loved her dearly. Qays was a poet and belonged to the same tribe as Layla. He composed splendid love poems and dedicated them to his lady love, telling in them his love for her and mentioning her name often. It had been for quite some time that Qays toyed with the idea of seeking Layla's hand in marriage from her parents. One day, he went up to them and put the big question before them. But Qays was a poor lad. And when he asked for Layla's hand in marriage, her father promptly refused him as he didn't want her daughter to marry below her status. As fate would have it, the two lovers were banished from seeing each other. Soon after, Layla's parents married her off to a wealthy man and she went on to live in a big mansion. When Qays heard of her marriage, he was heartbroken. He fled the tribe camp and wandered in the surrounding desert. He could sometimes be seen reciting poetry to himself or writing Layla's name in the sand with a stick. Day and night, he pined for her. Layla was no better. Not long afterwards, in 688 AD, she moved to Iraq with her husband, where she fell ill and died eventually. When Qays' friends came to know about Layla's death, they went looking for him all over to give him the news. But they could not find him. Not much later, their search for him came to an end. Qays was found dead in the wilderness near Layla's grave. On a rock near the grave, he had carved 3 verses of poetry, which are the last 3 verses ascribed to him. Qays went mad for his love. For this reason he came to be called Majnun. The true love story of Antony and Cleopatra is one of the most memorable, intriguing and moving of all times. The relationship between these two powerful people put the country of Egypt in a powerful position. Cleopatra was born in January 69 BC in the city of Alexandria, Egypt. Cleopatra was to become the last monarch of the Ptolemaic Empire, established in 323 BC after the death of Alexander the Great, ruling Egypt from 51 BC to 30 BC. In 48 BC, Cleopatra had become an ally and lover of Julius Caesar and remained so until his assassination in Rome in March of 44 BC. The death of Caesar threw Rome into turmoil, with various factions competing for control, the most important of these being the armies of Mark Antony, the former a supporter and loyal friend Caesar. In 41 BC, Cleopatra was summoned to southern Turkey by Mark Antony. But as she saw Mark Antony, she fell in love with him, and he with her, almost instantly. Antony and Cleopatra soon became allies and lovers, and he returned with her to Alexandria in 40 BC. The relationship between these two powerful people put the country of Egypt in a powerful position. But their love affair outraged the Romans, who were wary of the growing powers of the Egyptians. Despite all the threats, Antony and Cleopatra got married at Antioch, in Syria, in 36 BC. Together, Antony and Cleopatra formed a formidable ruling power. As a Roman general, with a powerful army in the eastern provinces, Antony gave his new wife a spectacular wedding present, much of the Middle East. In 34 BC, he declared Cleopatra to be the Queen of Kings. But Octavian, blood relative of Caesar, not bear Antony taking his uncle's place. He declared a war against Antony. The battle between the forces of Octavian and of Antony and Cleopatra took place at Actium. While fighting a battle against Romans, Antony got false news of Cleopatra's death. Shattered, he fell on his sword. When Cleopatra learned about Antony's death, she was shocked, and she took her own life. The story of Helen of Troy and the Trojan War is a Greek heroic legend, combining fact and fiction. Helen of Troy, also known as Helen of Sparta, in Greek myths she was considered to be the most beautiful woman in the world. She was married to Menelaus, king of Sparta. Paris, son of King Priam of Troy, fell in love with Helen and abducted her, taking her back to Troy. According to Greek mythology, the story begins with the Trojan prince Paris being chosen to decide which of three goddesses, Hera, Athena and Aphrodite, is the fairest. He chose Aphrodite because in return she promised him the most beautiful woman in the world. And the most beautiful woman was Helen, who, however, was married to King Menelaus. Paris went to Sparta and took Helen to Troy, by which he triggered the Trojan War. The Greeks assembled a great army, led by Menelaus's brother, Agamemnon, to retrieve Helen. Troy was destroyed. Helen returned safely to her husband in Sparta.